Hey, it's James here from goodguitarist.com, and today I'm going to show you what I believe are the 5 most important gospel or traditional songs that you should know how to strum on guitar. You know, these are kind of like the 5 that everybody knows. So if you're at like a gathering or a party, people are going to be able to sing along. And I also like them a lot because they transcend the religious aspect of the tunes. You know, whether you believe in anything or not, like you can't argue that these are not all amazing songs that everyone can enjoy. And if you've seen one of my videos like this before, you'll know that I'm all about getting past the sheet music. You know, it's great to have it at first, but eventually you want to be able to just do it without it. You know, you don't want to have your nose in the page while everybody else is having a great time, right? You know, you want to be there in the moment with all them. So we're going to discuss that after we learn our first tune, so stay tuned for that. Anyways, the first song that I want to show you is Will the Circle Be Unbroken? And the most famous recording is the Carter family recording from like 1930 or something like that. But it's even older than that, believe it or not. And this song's really good to start with because it's just G, C, and D. And I'm going to write the chords out there in the corner. You can see I put G 4 times. So we're going to do our strumming pattern 4 times on G, then 2 times on C, 2 times on G, so on and so forth. And that's the entire song. We just play it like that over and over again. And as far as the strumming is concerned, I like root, down, up, down, up. So root means just hitting the thicker strings, then a big downstroke, then miss, up, down, up. And that's a really awesome folk strumming pattern. You don't have to do root. You can just do a full downstroke if that's too much. But root, it adds those dynamics. You know, it turns it into a bass note, and it really makes it sound a lot more in depth, right? Anyways, this one's pretty straightforward. I'm just going to sing it and play it for you. I was standing by my window on one cold and cloudy day. I saw that hearse come a-rolling for to carry my mother away. Will the circle be unbroken by and by, Lord, by and by? And there's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. And when it comes to writing this down, that's something that you're going to have to do at first. And what I like to do is I print out the lyrics. That usually takes up like the left side of the page. And then I'll put a chord grid. That's that thing right there. That's my word for it, at least. And it kind of has the entire chord progression laid out. It tells you how many times you're going to strum everything so that you don't get lost. Because that's one of the weaknesses when you just look up, Will the Circle Be Unbroken chords? It'll have the lyrics and it'll have the chords over top of it, but you don't know how long to play everything for. You switch to this chord too early, you know, like I see people make these little mistakes all the time. And the cure for that is to write the chord grid on the side, and you practice playing along to that. You practice counting along to that. And, you know, that's what's inside the musician's head. Like somebody who's really good at playing, like things are broken down into little blocks like that. So that's what I want you to get used to doing. You know, is get your pen and paper, print off the lyrics, write your own chord grid, and, you know, that's the path. Now, with that said, this is a traditional song. There's no copyright on it. So I do have my own tab that is completely correct, that, you know, tells you how many times to play everything for and all that stuff. And I'm going to put a link to that down below if you're interested, or in the corner. We'll see where it ends up. Anyways, let's move on to our second tune. We're going to do, this is one of my favorites, The Old Rugged Cross. It's from like 1951, I think. Ernie Tubb. Really great performance of it. It has like this super cool organ sound, and it's a really neat song. As far as the actual chords are concerned, once again, this is just G, C, and D for most of it. There is an A7 chord in there at one point, and that's just like an A chord. You could just play an A chord if you're not comfortable, or if you want to seventhify it, I just put my middle finger on the 2nd fret of the D string, my ring finger on the 2nd fret of B. Hit the same strings you would for an A. Lovely bluesy chord. And this song is in 3/4, and if you haven't learned any songs in 3/4, I recommend listening to the recording of it and just counting along, just going like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You just keep counting to 3 over and over instead of counting to 4. As far as the pattern's concerned, I would just do something simple like that. A downstroke on 1, and then down up on 2, down up on 3. You know, with the counting 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3, and down, down, up, down, up. You know, so you can just work on that at your own pace, and then we can play it together, starting off on a G chord. On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. And I love that old cross where the dearest and best for a world of lost sinners was slain. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I laid down. I will cling to that old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown. And as far as getting into that A7 chord, I realize we're on a C chord, so we can leave our middle finger down. That's a really nice, simple way to pivot into it. And then from A7, we go back into G by just putting our ring finger up 1 fret. So that way you have like a little trick, you know, to get from one switch to the next. Anyways, the next song that I'd like to do is This Little Light of Mine. And you probably noticed a trend here. These are all super easy songs that use like G, C, and D. This one's no exception, except there's a B7 chord in there, which isn't too tricky. I consider it like the final one of the basic chords that you'd want to learn. And in this case, we come from a G chord. And what I like to do is I go down 1 fret, and then I move these 2 fingers up, and then I move my ring finger. And that is like my little step-by-step way to get into B7. You know, so I'm kind of sliding my pinky down, and that helps me a lot. Just work on that at your own pace if you know, if you're so inclined. Anyways, I'm gonna write out the chords here. As far as the strumming's concerned, I would just use the most common strumming pattern ever: down, down, up, miss, up, down, up. Just keep it simple, and let's just give it a shot. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. And by the way, when I look up songs, like whenever I'm going to teach anything, I always look up the name of the song and I type chords, and then I see what's on like that, you know, whatever webpage comes up first. And for a lot of these, they're really crazy. Like they add all these extra chords and stuff that aren't really necessary. Maybe they're from some like obscure version of it or something, but this is the bare minimum that you need to make it actually sound like the song. And if you see something that has a bunch of other stuff, it's just extra things that you don't really need, in my opinion. So do what I say. No, these are, yeah, write that down. That's going to be the simplest way to, and it actually sounds like the song exactly. Anyways, our next song is Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. And we're going to do this in the key of D. A lot of people do it in the key of C, but there's an F chord that way. This way we can avoid that, keep it all really nice and simple. I'm going to write the chords out here. We're going to use the most common strumming pattern ever, but you'll notice, like for the G and D chords, I have down, down, up written under each of those because they're not a full measure. So we go like, sweet chariot, We just do down, down, up on each of those chords. Everything should be pretty clear and straightforward, especially once you watch me play through this. You'll see exactly how it goes. But you might want to work on that because the switch is a little quicker. Just going down, down, up, down, down, up on G and D. Otherwise, this song is, very straightforward. So let's just give it a try here. 1, 2, 3. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming for to carry me home. I saw a band of angels coming after me, coming for to carry me home. So make sure you pay attention to those down, down, ups because they're in a couple spots. Otherwise, most common strumming pattern ever, plus chords. Very straightforward. The final song that I want to show you is Peace in the Valley. And this is probably the newest one. It's not like a million years old. It's like from the 30s, I'd say. I kind of am going off the Johnny Cash version because it's a little bit simplified. You'll see there's a super famous version by Elvis and by Red Foley. And those ones are in like C sharp and C. So like the chords are a lot trickier. And they have like the gospel choir singing with them. And it's super dope. Like Elvis's, the Jordanaires, I think they're called. Awesome. I love that. It reminds me of the Statler Brothers. I would watch that with my grandma when we were kids. We'd be able to stay up late and watch TV, but it was the Statler Brothers. So, we did the best we could. Anyways, here are the chords. And you'll notice there's an A7 in there, which we already did on Old Rugged Cross. The one thing to note in this one is it's in 3/4 once again. So we're going to use that down, down, up pattern, just like we did in Old Rugged Cross. And there's a couple spots where we're splitting it. So we're splitting a pattern in 3/4, and that can be a little bit tricky. It's at the very end when we go, there'll be peace in the valley for me. So we do our pattern normally on G, and then down, down, down. I would just do it like that, super simple. 2 downstrokes on A, and then 1 downstroke on D, and then we're back to G. Back to our regular pattern. So you might want to practice that part, just going down, 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 and then back into it. Anyways, let's give it a shot. Well, I'm tired and weary, but I must go alone till the Lord comes and calls me away. Morning so bright, and the Lamb is the light, and the night is black as the sea. And there'll be peace in the valley for me someday. There'll be peace in the valley for me. I pray there'll be no sadness, no sorrow, no trouble. I see there'll be peace in the valley for me. All right, so those are my top 5 gospel and traditional tunes. In my opinion, some of the most beautiful songs that have stood the test of time, and they're excellent for learning. There's so many fundamental things, because all the songs that came after these songs are like 100 years old. All the songs like from the 60s, 70s, even stuff from nowadays, it's all based on this stuff, like all the pieces are there. So these are awesome for laying the foundation, so I really hope that you learn your favorites out of these 5. If you want to take this a step further, in my beginner course, I have all these tunes with the melodies playing through the entire song, just so you can learn them completely. You can play the chords, or you can play the melody on guitar, or you can, if you hanging out with somebody else, they can sing and you can play the guitar, and you can do this in a bunch of different ways. I'll give you all the options. And And my beginner course is also going to be the thing that takes you from somebody who maybe has little hiccups in your rhythm or in other aspects of your playing. And, we're just going to smooth that all out and get it to the point where you're just a confident strummer who has the songs memorized, who can just show up at the gathering or at the party, or even if you're just at home, just like playing for your spouse, you're going to impress them with these guitar skills, the fact that you can get through a whole song and it sounds like the song. So please check that out if you are so inclined. Or you could even check out my free crash course if you just want the basics for getting started. Otherwise, have a fun time practicing, and I'll see you soon.